Have you ever wondered what would happen if the Earth, our giant spinning top, just stopped? It's a wild thought, right? We're hurtling through space, spinning on our axis at a breezy 1,674 kilometers per hour at the equator. It's what gives us our day and night, but what if, in a blink of an eye, that rotation came to a dead halt? Let's dive into this mind-bending, and frankly terrifying, thought experiment. The consequences are so catastrophic, it makes every disaster movie you've ever seen look like a walk in the park. First, let's consider the most extreme, and likely, scenario. According to James Imbleman, a senior geologist at the Smithsonian, if the Earth stopped instantly, it wouldn't just be a bad day. It would be the end of the Earth as we know it. The planet itself would literally tear apart. See, even if the solid planet stopped, everything on it, and the planet itself, has incredible momentum. Imagine you're on a bus that slams on its brakes. The bus stops, but you keep going, right? Now, scale that up to a planetary level. The Earth's crust and mantle would essentially peel off, shattering into a massive cloud of molten rock and asteroids. Everything that makes our world would just keep going, continuing its orbit around the sun as a field of debris. Of course, no life would survive this. It would be an instant, total obliteration. But over millions of years, gravity might do its thing, pulling all those pieces back together to form a brand new, lifeless planet. It's a process called accretion. Thankfully, there's no known force in the universe that could just stop our planet's spin like flicking a switch. So, we can all breathe a collective sigh of relief. Okay, let's dial back the planetary destruction just a notch. What if, by some miracle of physics, the Earth's crust was strong enough to not tear itself apart? Well, the situation on the surface wouldn't be much better. NASA physicist Stan Odenwald explains that the incredible angular momentum would turn everything not bolted down to bedrock into a projectile. Think about it. Everything on the surface is moving at over 1,600 kilometers per hour. When the ground stops, the air, the oceans, the trees, the buildings, you, me, your dog, everything gets launched sideways at supersonic speeds. It would be like a global, horizontal explosion. Even things that are nailed down would be ripped from their foundations. Most of this stuff wouldn't fly off into space. It would arc through the sky and then crash back down, creating a cataclysmic hailstorm of everything you've ever known. And what if you were smart enough to be hiding in a deep underground bunker? The sheer force of the stop would likely slam you into the wall with enough force to be instantly fatal. There's really no safe place in this scenario, so let's get even more fantastical. Let's say the ground holds and our buildings are somehow indestructible. Are we safe then? Not even close. Next up, the weather. The atmosphere would still be moving at its original speed of 1,674 kilometers per hour. This would create winds so powerful they defy imagination. For context, the strongest hurricanes ever recorded have winds around 300 kilometers per hour. These global winds would be 5 times stronger. They would scour the surface of the planet clean. It would be like being sandblasted, but the sand would be rocks, debris, and the shredded remains of our entire civilization. Any city would be erased from existence more completely than by any nuclear weapon. And while this is happening, the oceans, which also have momentum, would slosh over the continents in tsunamis miles high, engulfing everything. As if that's not enough, the friction between the now stationary crust and the still spinning core and mantle would trigger the most violent earthquakes imaginable, constantly shaking the planet to its, core. The dust and debris thrown into the atmosphere would block out the sun, plunging the planet into a dark, freezing winter that could last for years. All right, imagine a handful of people somehow survived all that. They're deep underground, they withstood the initial jolt, the winds, the tsunamis, the earthquakes. What's next for humanity? The slow, silent killer, radiation. Our planet has a magnetic field, a protective bubble generated by the spinning, molten iron core. This shield, called the magnetosphere, deflects harmful solar wind and cosmic radiation. If the Earth stopped spinning, the core eventually would too. The magnetic field would collapse. The Van Allen radiation belts that encircle our planet would disappear. Any survivors emerging from their bunkers would be exposed to lethal doses of radiation from the sun and deep space. Within days or months, it would be a death sentence. And over the long term, without the magnetic field, the solar wind would start to strip away our atmosphere, just like what happened to Mars billions of years ago. Eventually, our planet would become a barren, airless rock. Survivors would need impossible technology just to have air to breathe. Even if we ignore the radiation, the very shape of our world would change. Earth isn't a perfect sphere. Its rotation causes it to bulge at the equator by about 21 kilometers. It's slightly squashed. If the rotation stops, gravity would take over and pull the planet into a more perfect sphere. This would have a dramatic effect on our oceans. The massive bulge of water at the equator would migrate towards the poles. The result, a new world geography. A single, gigantic supercontinent would emerge around the equator, while two massive polar oceans would form at the top and bottom of the world. The climate as we know it would completely collapse. Vast new deserts would form, and the once temperate zones would become unrecognizable. The planet would become a harsh, extreme, and utterly uninhabitable wasteland. And finally, if our planet stops spinning on its axis but continues to orbit the sun, our sense of time would be destroyed. One day would last an entire year. For 6 straight months, one side of the Earth would face the sun, baking under its relentless heat. Temperatures would soar high enough to boil water and bake the very soil. Any remaining oceans on that side would evaporate. Meanwhile, the other side of the planet would be plunged into a 6-month-long night. Temperatures would drop to hundreds of degrees below zero, freezing everything solid. It would be a planet of two extremes, one side a scorched desert, the other an icy wasteland. Life as we know it, which depends on the gentle cycle of day and night, would have no chance. The Earth would become a silent, static monument in space, a stark reminder of the delicate, spinning balance that makes our existence possible. So, the next time you feel the gentle breeze or watch a sunrise, maybe take a moment to appreciate our planet's constant, life-giving spin. It's one of the many cosmic miracles that allow us to be here. This was a dark one, I know, but isn't it fascinating to think about? If you enjoyed this cosmic journey into catastrophe, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the universe's biggest questions. Thanks for watching.